Good morning. Welcome to Trainwreck Marriage. I'm Dave Touchton.
And I'm Susan Touchton.
Hey, today we're going to take a little twist and turn. I went to a grief group last night, and that's one thing they mentioned was if you don't think you've made any progress, look back 6 months or a year and where you've come. And that really kind of hit me because a lot of times, on here there's sprinkles of what God's done and different things, but just really kind of wanted one of those days to where just how much God has done for us over the last 4 years, 5 years, well, 8 years. It really, there's different phases God's done stuff. And, you know, um, I think of when we were in the midst of our trouble, I didn't see any way out, but God did. And, it all blew up the end of October. First part of December, I booked a trip to Jamaica and we were going to go. Then it blew up again mid December, and I was like, God, I can't get my money back. There's nothing I can do. And I mean, I just don't want to go. I don't want to spend a week with Susan. It was a very turmoil time for us. And, but then we got there, and it was probably the best vacation we've ever had. It was just, it was peaceful. It was together. It was things that you wouldn't expect 30 days before. We're in full bloat turmoil. Um, and it's amazing how God works. I think back before my relationship with Haley. She's just like me, so we're both Type A drivers, and we would battle. I mean, just go to war out in the garage, and that was kind of our arguing place because Susan. We didn't want Susan to be involved, so we go to the garage where no one could hear us. And I think of how much um, not hatred, but aggravation with each other on both sides. I mean, we really didn't really want to be there. And she moved out, and that was about the time God kind of got involved with us. And now I look back. I mean, I talk to her now. We have a good relationship, and it's I guess the win sometimes when you're trudging through the forest, fighting off every bear, animal, alligator, I don't care what you want to call it, and you think, oh gosh, it's got to get better. Well, when I start looking back 8 years, our life's hugely different than it was 8 years ago. Um, it's kind of like I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, we decided to start selling everything. The freedom we have now compared to the freedom we had then. I mean, literally, we were buried in our muck with nowhere to go, and we were trying to figure out how to be happy. Now we have freedom, we are happy, and no, we don't have a perfect world. I mean, we've got bad days. I mean, it's so I guess what I'm saying is sometimes you can't see how far you come till you look back. And that's really kind of the point today. Our kids are doing well. They're all going and doing their own thing. And I really, with me and Susan, our relationship has completely changed over the last 8 years. We still have bumps in the road, but we have a lot of good times as well. Where in the past I can't really say we had a lot of good times. And so it's amazing what God can do. But the real focus in this though was not everyone else changing. It was me changing. Having a positive perspective is because you're looking at things and looking for the positive. And if you don't look for the positives and where things have been good, you'll never find them. I can promise you that. If you're not looking for um, things that are good or things that are going on, and you're just going with, oh my gosh, my life sucks. I hate my job.
Yeah.
We can't find this. We can't buy this. We wanted to buy this, and we can't buy this. And you can create this frenzy in you that actually drags you down. And I've been there, I've done it, to where you're going through all the motions and you're trying to be positive, but yeah, you really can't see any positive. So, as we start digging back through the things that God's done, and it's kind of like during the crisis, and I'm gonna call it a crisis, of us finding out Hope was pregnant, and it wasn't a crisis, but it was kind of like, okay, what's this look like? Okay, now we're 4 years in. She just had a birthday. They're doing great. We love Blakely. Wouldn't want it any other way. But at the time, our fear was, well, are they going to make it? Are they going to be able to finish college? Are they going to be able? And the whole time we were going through it, we were so concerned about all these things, but yet God already had a plan in the works. He already knew what was going to happen. And honestly, it's one of those things. So when you start dealing with your day, I guess my first question is, what is your perspective today? Does it all suck, or are you blessed? And that's kind of what I got from last night, was realizing how far we have come, how bad it was at one point in time, but yet how good the future is that we don't even know, but we're worrying about all these little piddly things.
Was something that God gave me yesterday, that I actually wrote down this morning is, what if we woke up every morning, instead of worrying about what the day was going to bring, worrying about whatever meeting or whatever it is we had to face, instead of worrying and stressing and getting frustrated about what might happen, thinking about waking up and anticipating what God's going to do with our day.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a hard mindset sometimes to get into, but what if we wondered and just really kept our eyes open throughout the day, watching what God was going to do? He is not he is not unaware of everything that is going to happen throughout our day. He knows everything, and he wants us to have a good day. He wants us to bring him glory and honor throughout the day. And so what does that really look like? And trust me, I'm really struggling this morning. For whatever reason, there's just an ugly spirit on me, and I'm kind of questioning, what my purpose is and what God has planned for me. Last night, I was at my women's group, and we're in the process of doing a spiritual inventory, which is basically looking back over our walk with the Lord and significant times when he's really showed up and pointed us in a direction or whatever. And almost all of the ladies that were that are in our Bible study all grew up in the church, and all have always, since very young, walked with the Lord. And so I was really allowing Satan to really just mess with my mind during that time of, I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't become a Christian until I was 24 years old. And so I had a lot of bad habits, a lot of difficulties, a lot of non-Christian things that I did up until that point and still struggle with, because, 20 years old of dealing with old habits and trying to get rid of them, and just the things that I've allowed Satan to say over the years of, you're not good enough, or you still screw up, or whatever the case may be. So it was a real reflection. But as we sit here this morning talking about all the good things, is God took a very broken and flawed individual and made him into one of his children, simply by drawing me close to him and allowing me to recognize him as my Lord and Savior. And then it's a process. He's molding me, he's shaping me continually. And I know that he's doing that with people that have walked with him ever since they can remember. We're all a work in progress. None of us are finished yet. And so just knowing and looking back over, the last, especially I would say the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, and how God's really taught me different things, and how being in His Word, He opens it up to me and reveals things to me. How praying is becoming such an important part of my life, and how He's wanting me to learn to be a prayer warrior. It's kind of difficult for me sometimes because there's so many things to pray about. But what that looks like for me, and what He's calling me to do. And so it's been really eye opening to see what He's done in me, what He's done in our marriage. It's only truly by the grace of God that we're still married,
Yes.
because we're both very broken and flawed. We both come with a lot of baggage. We both come with a lot of hangups. But we are being perfected in Christ, and therefore, we, but it's a work in progress. And so, I guess my encouragement through saying all of that is, if you're struggling right now, whether it be in your walk with Christ or whatever, really pause and look back at what He has done, because He is faithful, and He is a provider, and He can meet all of our needs. And if you're struggling seeing what He's done, then you might question your obedience to what He's calling you to do. It's just, I don't know. We get so caught up in the day to day and the difficulties of life, and what if this happens? What if that happens? What if ... And, our office girl is accepted another job. So I'm going to be in the office by myself starting next week. And it's just like a big downer, it's like, what am I supposed to do? I'm not going to have the freedom to leave when I want to leave. But God has a purpose and a plan for that. And I don't know what it is yet. I know that there's some growth opportunity there. And so part of me is excited to see what He's going to do with this particular stage. The timing could not be any worse than right now from my perspective. But God knows the timing, and His timing is perfect. So I just have to trust that He has that plan. And so the more that you look back and see what God has done, the more that you can rely on Him for what He's going to do.
Yeah, no, those are some excellent points, because the thing is, you, I've got a guy I work with, and it's all bad. All bad. One day God hates him. Next day it's praise Jesus. The next day it's God hates me. And that's our perspective. A lot of that is our wish list hasn't been completed. Or our expectation hasn't happened in the time frame we expect. And that's why I think looking back is such a reflection of watching God move through a situation. When you think there is no hope, we're doomed. I can't tell you how many times I had that thought about our marriage, that there was no way out. We would never recover this, and it wasn't all the time, but there was times that Satan got me down, and it was just I fed off that, and a friend of mine says I comb the hair of my worst enemy every morning. And that's a very true statement, because your head and your thoughts is where Satan loves to live and poke at you. When really, when you look back over the last however long, for us, it's really about 8 years. Not consistently. Let's be very clear about that. We've had some dark times in the 8 years. We've had some great times in the last 8 years. But it's one of those things to where God has done some huge things in our family, through bad situations that we really didn't want to deal with. But when we dealt with them, God showed us something about us. And it may be the way you handle a situation. It may be your adjustment. It just, in times of crisis, is when you grow the most.
Mm-hmm.
And because you've got it, once you get to the point that you're like, I don't know what else to do. I've logically tried to figure it out, it doesn't work. I've tried to make it happen, it doesn't work. I've tried to blah blah blah. Then we kind of get to the point where it's like, okay, God, I'll give it to you. I really don't know where you're going, and it scares me to death because you may do something that I don't like. But yet, that's the thing is, I can't think of a time where we look back and go, oh, that was awful. I can't believe God handled it that way. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It kind of, and so I think your self talk and the great things that are happening in your life, what you see as a curse right now or a negative right now, God can turn into a blessing if you're willing to look for it, if you're willing to be obedient towards it. And I think that's sometimes where we get hung up is, number one, our expectation didn't happen in the time frame we felt like it should. And why did God do this? So God must not be hearing me, or God must not want me to be happy. I've said all the stupid things over the years when really it was me in my head. And a lot of times it was me driving the bus going, hey, God, bless this. By the way, bless this. I'm in your will if you don't know it. I'm here. When really it wasn't following God. And, God has blessed us so very much with paying off things. I'll be honest with you. It hadn't been no fun. It has not been fun selling things, getting rid of things, doing all of the stuff we've done. But again, the freedom on the other side, now all of a sudden it's completely different than the stresses we had 6 years ago.
Well, and that's the thing. It hasn't been fun, but it's been a blessing.
Absolutely.
We, like I said, it's not, I see all these posts about all these people going on vacation and at the beach, which is my very happy place to be. And I think, well, when do we get to go on vacation? We don't get to take a vacation, or wham, 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 poor pitiful us. Well, we're in the process of buying a house. So there goes our vacation. But I think, we get caught in that mindset of poor pitiful me. Where's my blessings going to happen when, you woke up this morning and you are breathing and, I think sometimes we just get so caught up, and I would just, social media is just a really great time sucker. And I'm guilty as anybody else to keep up with what's going on, but it also can be a real Debbie Downer in the sense of you see all these, pictures of what people are doing and their happy family. Nobody posts their fact that they, are having a horrible day, or, that they got in a fight with their spouse or their kids,
or the video of you screaming at each other and
yeah,
how much you hate each other.
The reality is not everybody lives in roses and rainbows 24/7. There's always somebody that has a bad day, that has to deal with life, that has to deal with stress. And I guess the point of it is, what do you do with that?
Right.
Do you have a pity party? Some days you're going to have a pity party. Let's just be honest. But don't live there. Don't live in a pity party, because we're all blessed beyond what we deserve, for sure. And God is faithful. And so just, we just need to really, again, pause and look for his blessings, because they're there. And the more you draw close to him, the more you see the blessings and the more that he gives the blessings.
Well, and I think you also got to have people in your life that will tell you that you're a whiner and to quit whining. And because when you're in the midst of it, you're kind of wallowing in the crap, and you deserve it. It's what you should be doing. And, I think that's, when I work with guys, that's one thing. I mean, I'm brutally honest with them. I love them. I'd do anything in the world for them, but I'm not going to let them self-sabotage without knowing it. And having someone that can say, dude, you're whining. Oh, poor you. I feel bad for you because you're breathing. You got a good job. No, things aren't perfect because he's got a list of things that aren't perfect. And everybody has that list. I mean, like Susan said, due to weddings and different things that have been have been our option and things that haven't. We really haven't been on a vacation with me and her in 4 years.
Probably forever.
It feels like
Wah,
forever, right?
forever.
But in the middle, though, the growth we've had over the last 4 years, not only in God, but what God's used us for, and then what the freedom, daily freedom we get from what um, really getting rid of everything was about. Because the pressure that was there is not there now. And even being thankful for the pressure being removed. I mean, I sometimes we don't remember how bad it was. I think of the story of Moses leads the Israels out. They're in the desert, and they want to go back and be slaves because it's easier than not having food and having to rely on God. Well, we kind of get into that mindset of you don't remember how bad it really was. And you think, man, if I could just, I hear it all the time, if I could just go back to high school
Mm.
and start over. Oh, you know what? There were bad times during high school. You may not remember them. You may only remember the great times, or you may have had a phenomenal high school. Personally, I wouldn't do high school again. I would probably do from college on, graduating college on, because I did make a large amount of mistakes during that period of 19 to 23. Um, but that's kind of the thing is when you really start looking at what has God brought you out of that you're whining about that's better than what you had. And I guess that's, a lot of today is just the blessings God's done, but also, are you creating some of your own issues by your perspective? I know you can't be positive all the time and be this, hey, it's going to be great. I agree with that completely. But my question is, are you that way at all, other than at church when you're around other Christians? In your head, are you ever in that mode? Are you ever in that, God's really done a lot for us. It's been tough, but God and start listing out some of the blessings. I mean, I think of hear of at the grief group, people lost their children to death, and I think, man, I'm glad we haven't went through that. And I mean, or I can sit there and whine about how much, well, they get to go on vacation and they got a big boat or they got this, and well, they're so happy. Look at Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like Susan said, it, there's not a bad Facebook where when everything bad happens, you post it. Only the happy things. And so I just really, looking back on even our life over the last 8 years, I mean, well, let's even go further back. If God hadn't put Mike and Sarah at Beautiful Feet in our lives, my life 30 years ago, we'd had nowhere to run when things got horrible. We wouldn't have a second family that truly is true family. We're not talking just people that we like. And that's, as you're going through it, you don't think much about it. I wouldn't have told you 30 years ago we would consider Beautiful Feet our home church and that we would consider them family. I mean, but now I say it. And so it's kind of one of those things. Are you looking for the blessings and the positives, or are you looking to tell me how bad it is?
Yeah, I don't have really a whole lot more. Sometimes blessing comes in disguise. I think that's a song or something, but sometimes we have to look for the blessings. We have to look to see how God has blessed us and what He's done for us, and and get out of the poor, pitiful me mode, because there's some tough things that happen. I don't diminish that. I don't, you know, I don't take anything away from that, but don't live there, just realize that you're going through some tough times right now, or you're going through difficulties, but know that God has a plan. His plans are, He loves you so much, and He knows where you're at. He knows what you're going through, and He wants you to come through it, and He will be the one to help you get through it. But you have to rely on Him. You have to seek Him. You have to depend on Him and allow Him to bring you through it.
Yeah, and if you're not investing time in him, it's not a relationship.
Right.
And I think that's some of the fallacies that go on in the church is, well, I pray at dinner time and I go to church. I go to church every time the doors are open. I've heard that as well. Well, how much do you read the Bible? Oh, I don't. Or, well, I think 3 weeks ago I cracked it open. And we all go through dry spots, and we all go through times where we don't do it. But I mean, at some point in time, when is it going to be your responsibility? When are you going to pick up the Bible and start reading it? Listening to podcasts, listening to the Bible. There's a lot of pastors out there, and no, I don't agree with all of them, but I've had some that I've had them say, oh no, they're false teachers. But I tell you what, there was a period of time where God used them to speak directly into my life and help me get through some things. And, it's kind of one of those things we get hung up in a lot. And like I was telling one guy, there was Joyce Myers was one that I listened to for 2 years. And she's really an abuse background. And she really spoke to me and helped me through some times. But I didn't chase Joyce all over the country. I didn't try to join their church. I didn't send her money. But there was a season where God used her to speak and help heal some things during that time that needed to be healed. And, I bounced around on podcasts from Todd White, Stephen Furtick, Greg Gershell. I mean, I've kind of got a whole genre of one extreme to the other. Because God speaks through them and puts them at the right place. And I don't listen to them every day or every week. But you know what? Every time I kind of get prompted from God and I listen to one of the messages, guess what? It hits me right in the forehead with the 2x4 where I'm at today. So if you're not willing to invest the time into a relationship, then it's kind of like a marriage. When we were dating, I couldn't get enough. We had to be together all the time. At some point in time, you got to be willing to do that with God.
Well, and something that's kind of popped into my head is, just like you cannot be saved just because your parents or your grandparents or whoever is saved, that doesn't mean you're saved. You have to accept Christ as your Lord and Savior. Just because somebody else does it doesn't mean that doesn't make you saved. Any different than just because other people have a relationship with Christ, you can't by osmosis or whatever have a relationship with Christ through them. You have to develop your relationship with Christ on your own. And that's through reading the Bible. That's through prayer. That's through fellowship with other believers and being part of a church. That's through podcasts, people that would, God uses to speak into your life. But those people are not the reason you have a relationship. Those people are not God. You have to develop that relationship on your own, and ask God to show you how to do that, and He will. But it's a process, just like David said, and just like in a marriage or any other relationship, you have to invest in it and you have to spend time with it. Somebody can't do it for you.
Right. Well, we're out of time again, and we appreciate you guys listening. And if you'd share this with your friends or whoever God puts on your heart, we would appreciate it, and we hope you have a great week.